Dead 2 has one of the most deceptive weapon systems in gaming. Guns that look powerful on paper are secretly terrible, and weapons most players ignore are statistically dominant. Today I'm breaking down every weapon in the game and explaining exactly why some of them will save your life and others will get you killed. Starting with the guns everyone uses but nobody respects. Submachine guns. Let's get something out of the way. Nobody picks up an SMG and thinks this is my endgame weapon. These are the training wheels, the placeholder, the thing you grab off the safe room table because the alternative is running into a horde with a pistol and a dream. But there's actually more going on here than most players realize. The silenced SMG deals 25 damage per bullet and ties for the highest fire rate in the entire game. The standard UZI hits for 20 damage per bullet. Both carry 50 round magazines with 650 rounds in reserve, which sounds generous until you're holding down the trigger against a horde and watching that ammo counter evaporate. But here's where it gets interesting. The MP5 deals 26 damage per bullet, the highest of any tier 1 SMG. On paper, that should make it the best option. It doesn't. The MP5's fire rate is noticeably slower than both the silenced SMG and the UZI, which means its actual damage per second is worse. More damage per shot, less damage over time, and against a wall of 30 common infected sprinting at your face, damage over time is the only number that matters. There's also a hard ceiling on all three of these guns. The silenced SMG maxes out at just 2,200 hammer units of effective range, and damage degrades significantly over distance before that. That means anything beyond mid-range and your bullets are doing practically nothing. The community consensus is pretty unanimous here. SMGs exist to keep you alive until a tier 2 weapon shows up. You don't build a strategy around them, you survive with them. But if you think tier 1 weapons are disappointing, wait until you see what the shotguns are hiding. Sniper rifles. Here's something that breaks most players' brains. The hunting rifle and the military sniper deal exactly the same damage, 90 per shot, 360 DPS identical. Most people assume the military sniper hits harder because it looks bigger, sounds meaner, and holds twice the ammo. But statistically, these two guns are the same weapon wearing different clothes. So if the damage is identical, why does the choice matter at all? Because the game mode you're playing completely changes which rifle is correct. The military sniper holds 30 rounds per magazine with 210 in reserve. It also suffers 0 damage drop-off at any range. Every single bullet hits just as hard at maximum distance as it does point blank. That combination makes it an absolute monster in survival mode, where your team is holding a fixed position and pouring rounds into choke points. You don't need to move, you just need bullets, and the military sniper gives you more of them, but the hunting rifle tells a completely different story. It only holds 15 rounds with 150 in reserve, which looks worse on paper. Here's the thing though, it has significantly better moving accuracy. In Versus and Scavenge, where you're constantly repositioning, dodging special infected, and never standing still for more than a few seconds, that moving accuracy isn't just nice to have, it's everything. A sniper that can't hit while moving is just a really expensive paperweight. And here's what most players miss about both rifles. Their real power isn't horde clearing, that's not their job. One headshot from either rifle instantly kills boomers, spitters, smokers, hunters, and jockeys on every difficulty. Every single one, dead in a single bullet. The sniper's actual role is surgical special infected removal before they can pin, spit on, or drag your teammates into a death spiral. You're not shooting zombies, you're playing bodyguard with a scope. But if precision shooting sounds appealing, wait until you see what happens when you trade accuracy for pure, overwhelming firepower. Magnum pistol. Let me give you a combination that has no business existing on a secondary weapon. 80 damage per bullet, one-shot kills on any common infected, to any body part, on any difficulty, including realism mode where headshots are supposed to be the entire point, and infinite reserve ammunition, not a large ammo pool, infinite. You'll never run out of bullets with this thing, ever. That alone should make the Magnum the most broken weapon in Left 4 Dead 2. But here's the catch, and it's the only thing keeping this gun from completely destroying the game's balance. You get 8 rounds per magazine. That's it. 8 shots, then you're reloading. And that reload window is where the Magnum punishes you. Every single time you empty that magazine at the wrong moment, you're standing there defenseless while a charger lines you up or a horde closes the gap. And speaking of closing the gap, the Magnum loses 25% of its damage for every 500 hammer units of distance. So if you're playing aggressively, pushing forward, getting close to threats, you're burning through those 8 rounds faster than the gun can justify. The power is there. The margin for error is not. But here's where it gets genuinely controversial. On Expert Realism, the hardest difficulty combination in the game, some players straight up run the Magnum as their de facto primary weapon. And honestly, the logic is hard to argue with. Infinite ammo means you never need to hunt for ammo piles. One-shot kills on commons means the thing that makes Expert Realism brutally hard, the fact that commons absorb more damage and headshots are mandatory, just stops being a problem. You point, you click, they die. Every time. The other side of this argument says the 8-round magazine and the fact that you can't dual wield it keep the Magnum honest. You're sacrificing the dual pistol's sustained fire rate and the ability ability to hold off a horde without reloading every 2 seconds. That's a real trade-off. But the debate has never actually been settled. Some players genuinely believe using the Magnum on expert realism is cheesing the difficulty. Others call it smart play. And both sides have a point, which is exactly why this boring-looking pistol is secretly one of the most polarizing weapons in the entire game. Now, the Magnum might divide the community, but the next weapon on this list unites them, because nobody argues about whether it's powerful. Melee weapons. Every melee weapon in Left 4 Dead 2 deals the same damage per hit. Every single one. The machete, the crowbar, the katana, the fire axe, same number. The game has been lying to you through animation alone, because the actual performance gap between these weapons comes down to 2 things. Most players never consciously think about: swing speed and hit rate consistency. You feel the difference every time you whiff on a zombie that should be dead, but you probably never knew why. Let me explain. The machete generates 294 DPS against tanks. The crowbar, 216 DPS. That's a 78 DPS gap, and it exists purely because the machete swings faster, not harder. The damage per hit is identical, but here's where it gets worse for the crowbar. It only produces 10 to 12 hit rays on both of its swing patterns. The machete cycles through 3 distinct swing patterns with 10 to 16, 16 to 25, and 10 to 15 hit rays respectively. More hit rays means more invisible lines extending from your weapon checking for contact with enemies. Fewer hit rays means your swing physically passes through zombies without registering a hit, so the crowbar swings slower and misses more often. If you've ever felt like the crowbar was unreliable, congratulations, you were right. Your brain detected a mechanical disadvantage that the game never told you existed. Now, the chainsaw sits in its own category entirely. It has the smallest, most concentrated hitbox of any melee weapon in the game, which means it essentially never misses. Every swing connects, every time, but it kills one zombie at a time and runs on finite fuel. Once that fuel is gone, so is your weapon. The community is genuinely split on this one. Some players argue the chainsaw's perfect reliability earns it elite status. Others say the fuel ceiling permanently disqualifies it from top tier. And honestly, both sides have a point. There's no clean answer here. One more thing nobody talks about. Any sharp melee weapon can cut a smoker's tongue mid-grab. The katana, the machete, the fire axe, even the crowbar. That's a utility dimension that pure damage numbers completely fail to capture. You're getting dragged across the map, your teammates are scrambling, and your blade just severs the tongue before anyone fires a shot. That alone changes how you evaluate these weapons, but melee weapons still need you to get close. The next category doesn't have that problem, and the damage numbers are genuinely absurd. Shotguns. The combat shotgun and the tactical shotgun are separated by exactly 1 point of damage per shot. 1. The combat shotgun fires 9 pellets at 28 damage each for 252 total. The tactical shotgun fires 11 pellets at 23 damage each for 253. You would think that makes them basically the same weapon with a different skin. You'd be wrong. Here's the thing. That 1 damage difference is completely irrelevant. What actually matters is spread. The combat shotgun fires a tighter pellet pattern, which means more of those 9 pellets land on the same target at medium range. If a hunter is lunging at your teammate from 15 feet away, the combat shotgun puts more pellets into that hunter's face. Headshots on jockeys, clean kills on smokers before they drag someone off a ledge, sapilikinakiks into peace, and precise elimination of any special infected at a distance where shotguns have no business being effective. That's the combat shotgun's entire identity. The tactical shotgun plays a completely different game. Its wider spread means those 11 pellets fan out across a larger area, and when a horde of 30 common infected is sprinting at you across an open field, that spread guarantees you're connecting with multiple targets per shot. It's a crowd control tool disguised as a shotgun. In tight corridors and open horde rushes, the tactical clears bodies faster than almost anything in the game, but here's where it gets weird. Both tier 2 auto shotguns take a 15% damage penalty against tanks specifically. Most players have zero idea this exists. You're dumping shell after shell into a tank, wondering why it feels like you're tickling him, and the game is quietly shaving 15% off every single shot. At 840 DPS for the combat shotgun, that penalty drops your effective tank damage significantly. It's a hidden mechanical punishment built directly into the weapon class. And then there's the chrome shotgun, sitting quietly in tier 1, punching way above its weight class. The chrome has the tightest pellet spread of any shotgun in the game at 3.0 by 5.0. That spread is so tight it functions at distances where both auto shotguns become confetti cannons. Add individual shell reloading on top of that, meaning you can top off 1 or 2 shells between fights instead of committing to a full reload animation, and you've got a tier 1 weapon that genuinely outperforms tier 2 options in the right hands. The gap between tiers is real, but the chrome doesn't care about the gap. If you think shotguns are complicated, wait until you see what happens when you hand survivors weapons that were never meant to be carried in the first place. Weapon upgrades. Everything I've told you so far has a massive asterisk next to it, because there's a system in Left 4 Dead 2 that most players only half understand, and it quietly reshuffles the entire weapon tier list the moment you interact with it. Laser sights and special ammunition don't just make your guns slightly better, they change which guns are worth using at all. Let's start with the laser sight on the AK-47, because the community isn't exaggerating when they call this combination pretty much OP. Here's why. Crouching with any assault rifle already drops your minimum spread to approximately 0.1, which is near perfect accuracy, basically zero deviation. But the AK still has a weakness when you're moving, because movement introduces accuracy penalties that can turn your shots unreliable during repositioning. The laser sight eliminates those movement accuracy penalties entirely. So now you've got the highest damage per shot assault rifle in the game, firing with precision instrument accuracy, whether you're stationary or on the move. That's not an upgrade, that's a different weapon. But here's where it gets genuinely surprising. Slap a laser sight on a sniper rifle, and you remove the accuracy penalty for moving while crouched, completely. And if you've been paying attention, you know the primary practical difference between the hunting rifle and the military sniper is moving accuracy. The hunting rifle has better accuracy on the move, which is why competitive players prefer it for dynamic situations. The military sniper has double the magazine and more reserve ammo, but suffers while repositioning. One laser sight pickup erases that distinction. Suddenly, the military sniper has its magazine advantage, its ammo advantage, and equivalent moving accuracy. A single upgrade item collapses an entire weapon debate that players have argued about for over a decade. Now let's talk ammunition, because this is where strategy actually gets complicated. Incendiary ammunition on the grenade launcher is borderline absurd. The explosion radius nearly doubles in size, and the persistent burning effect does not diminish on tanks. That's sustained fire damage on top of the grenade launcher's already devastating 400 base explosion damage. On standard weapons, incendiary rounds one-shot common infected in realism mode regardless of where you hit them, and they keep special infected burning for extended periods after impact. Explosive ammunition offers the opposite philosophy. Maximum area denial. Splash damage that staggers groups and clears space around you like nothing else in the game. But there's a serious catch. That splash damage hits your teammates too. In any public lobby where communication is unreliable, explosive ammo becomes a liability. You'll stagger your own team, chip their health, and create chaos during the exact moments where coordination matters most. There's no clean answer to the incendiary versus explosive question. Incendiary is safer and more reliable. Explosive is more powerful but genuinely dangerous to your own squad. The right choice depends entirely on whether you trust the three people standing next to you, and that's the real takeaway here. The upgrade system doesn't polish your weapons, it fundamentally alters which weapons deserve to be at the top of the list. But if upgrades can reshape the tier list, wait until you see what happens when the game hands you a weapon that was never meant to be balanced in the first place. Assault rifles, this is the debate. This is the one that has been raging in Steam discussions and comment sections since 2009, and it's time to settle it with actual numbers. A coordinated 4-player team all running AK-47s can kill an expert difficulty tank in approximately 4.5 seconds of sustained fire, 4.5 seconds. On expert, that single stat should tell you everything you need to know about where this conversation is headed, but let's break down exactly why. The AK-47 deals 58 damage per shot, the M16 deals 33, that's not a slight edge. The AK hits nearly twice as hard per bullet, and before M16 defenders jump in with the fire rate argument, yes, the M16 shoots faster at 686 rounds per minute compared to the AK's roughly 462. It also has the fastest reload in the entire game at 2.2 seconds. On paper, that sounds like it closes the gap. In practice, it doesn't. Here's the thing. The AK's slower fire rate is actually an advantage in most real gameplay scenarios. You're conserving ammunition while delivering comparable or better damage per second in the engagement distance that actually matter. Most firefights in Left 4 Dead 2 don't happen at sniper range. They happen in hallways, doorways, crescendo events, and panic moments where a horde is sprinting directly at your face. At close to medium distance, the damage gap between these two weapons is simply too large to ignore. Now, the M16 does have one legitimate argument in its favor. The AK suffers 3% damage drop-off per 500 hammer units past 1,500 units, with a hard ceiling at 3,000 units. At extreme range, the M16 maintains better accuracy and more consistent instant damage. That's real. That matters. But community consensus lands firmly on the AK because you're rarely engaging targets at maximum distance in this game. When you are, you should probably be using a sniper rifle anyway. But here's where it gets interesting, because everyone forgets about the third option. The Scar L fires in 3-round bursts, and each trigger pull dumps serious damage. Compare that output to the military sniper rifle's 90 damage per shot. The Scar is putting out genuinely competitive numbers per trigger pull against a dedicated sniper weapon. It sits in this perfect bridge territory between assault rifle and sniper, giving you burst precision at range while still functioning as a fully capable combat rifle up close. It's genuinely underrated, and if you've been sleeping on it, stop. But all three of these weapons share one limitation that the next category completely ignores. And trust me, what's coming next makes the AK look restrained. Special tier weapons. Let's talk about the weapons that break the game, and I mean that as a compliment. The minigun fires at 1,500 RPM. That's 25 bullets per second, each one dealing 32 damage, for a combined 800 damage per second with infinite ammunition. It never reloads, it never runs dry. The M60 hits even harder per bullet at 50 damage a shot, pushing 454.5 DPS across a 150 round magazine. That's 7,500 total damage before the weapon disappears from your inventory forever. And then there's the grenade launcher, which deals 400 damage per explosion and a staggering 1,000 damage on a direct tank hit. Load it with incendiary ammunition, and the explosion radius nearly doubles, while the burn effect persists on tanks indefinitely. These numbers are absurd, and that's the point. But here's the thing, every single one of these weapons comes with a catch that prevents it from being a free win button. The minigun is bolted to the ground. You can't pick it up, can't reposition it, can't take it with you. It has a 170-degree rotation limit, meaning anything behind you is your team's problem. Fire it continuously for 20 seconds and it overheats completely, forcing a cooldown. And the smoke it generates during sustained fire actually impairs your own vision, which is a cruel design choice for a weapon that demands you hold a fixed position against waves of infected sprinting directly at your face. The minigun doesn't function like a weapon you use, it functions like a strategic decision that forces your entire team to reorganize defensively around one fixed point. Suddenly, the question isn't who's shooting, it's who's covering the flanks while one person melts everything in a cone. The grenade launcher has its own beautiful contradiction. Those explosions detonate environmental objects like propane tanks and gas cans, enabling chain reaction destruction that multiplies your damage ceiling way beyond the listed numbers. Sounds incredible, right? Now try using it in scavenge mode, where those gas cans are literally your objectives. One stray grenade and you've just destroyed the thing your team needed to win. The weapon that solves everything in campaign becomes a liability that punishes you for existing in scavenge. The M60 might be the most bittersweet of all. 7,500 damage sounds like enough to solve any problem in the game, and it is. But you get exactly 150 rounds, 0 reserve ammunition, and the moment that magazine is empty, the weapon is gone. Forever. No refills, no ammo piles, nothing. You're holding temporary godhood, and every single bullet you fire is one step closer to losing it. Competitive players dismiss all three as too rare and too situational to build any real strategy around. And they're right. You can't plan a run around a weapon that might not even spawn. But that's exactly what makes these weapons special. Casual players remember the first time they found a minigun and held a choke point against an impossible horde. They remember the grenade launcher shot that chain detonated 3 propane tanks and deleted a tank. They remember burning through an M60 magazine in 30 seconds of pure destruction and then standing there with nothing. Competitive players optimize around consistency. Casual players remember moments, and these three weapons exist purely to create moments that no other weapon in the game can replicate. That tension between reliability and spectacle is what makes Left 4 Dead 2 special. The best weapons aren't always the ones you can count on. Sometimes they're the ones you'll never forget. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.